Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
To the Democrats that are fighting continually against the border wall and border security, I have neither the time nor the crayons to keep explaining this to you. Okay? Callers, good morning and welcome. Zeb at the Ranch. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America. Followed by a Patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Oh, call in, come on. Have a good day. And a good morning to you and yours. Zeb at the Ranch, I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you with the best of tires for wintertime driving. And don't forget some of our great advertisers like Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, let's head to the phone line and have our great Patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
My friend.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. Call back again. I've got a lot of things to talk about this morning, and right now we're going to head to the weather forecast brought to you by Roger and the crew at K&R Rental. You know, you need to know where you can go and get the items that you need to finish the job. A construction job, something around the house, maybe heaters or maybe log splitters, all of this at K&R Rental, 256 South, 600 west of Hayburn, on the Burley-Paul Highway. You can't miss them. And if you're not sure what you need or what to do, call them, 678-3122, K&R Rental. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
We're finally going to see a little bit of sunshine for the day. Here's a look at your weather, expecting mostly sunny skies. Winds out of the west at about 10 miles an hour. We're looking at a high of 31 tonight, mostly cloudy skies with a low of 24. Winds will be picking up gusts as high as 20 miles an hour. For tomorrow, we do have a 20% chance of snow showers, mostly cloudy skies. Still breezy, winds out of the west-southwest at about 20 miles an hour, gusts as high as 35 miles an hour. High of 40 by tomorrow night, mostly cloudy skies, still going to be breezy with a low of 30. Then by Thursday, maybe a few more rays of sunshine and a high of 40. That's a look at your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Gina, thank you very much. Very well done as always. And, of course, our weather brought to you by K&R Rental. And they get there early in the morning at 7 a.m. to serve you at 256 South, 600 west of Hayburn. Easy to see them on the Burley-Paul Highway, 678-3122. Caller, I'll be right with you. Stand by. Don't go away. I want to remind everybody that Thursday is sale day, of course, at 10 a.m. at the Burley Livestock Sale Yard, 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley. Oh, yeah, the sale that works for you. Merv, May, Cade, Rogge, Lance, Udy, all of these great folks working for you. All you need to do is call for cattle consignments and sale information, 678-9411. Burley Livestock Sale Yard, 10 o'clock sale time this Thursday. Don't you miss it. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zeb. Just a thought for this morning. Problems we're having. We have a generation of people who think it's cool to become a generation of revolutionaries like Cortez, Sanders, and many more. Until they find out they have become a victim of their own hatred of freedom. And it may be too late to go back to freedom once they've lost it.
No, I agree. When I listen to Cortez and her despicably stupid, and she is stupid, remarks, that's not denigrating her and trying to run her down. I'm just stating the obvious. She is very stupid about the remarks that she makes. And I'm going to be talking more about that as the morning goes along, but I couldn't agree with you more. And some of the things that the Democrats are blatantly saying they're so far in the gutter that I'm fed up with them. Tony, I appreciate your call to break the ice this morning, and we will take care of it. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you very much, Deb.
All right, buddy. Hey, don't forget Daryl's Cleaners at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. We just dropped off a great big bag full of clothes over there the other day of my sports shirts and Wranglers and everything else, I'll tell you. They do a wonderful job. And by the way, I want to reiterate that if you don't have time to do your washing at home, you can take it into Daryl's Cleaners. They will wash, dry, fold, and iron all your clothes, just like Mom used to do. Holy moly, at Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. These are people that really care, and they know you're busy, and they can help at Daryl's Cleaners in Burley. Also, our big thank you goes out this morning to our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric. Holy moly, these people are good folks. And, you know, how many businesses can you think of, honestly, that have been in existence and thriving for over 6 decades? Oh, my goodness. This is a family business that absolutely has thrived and survived because they provide great service to you and your family and your business. Please, for all your heating, cooling, and electrical needs, don't forget it's Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. The number to call, 678-0459, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Deb. I want to invite everybody out to the Senior Center today for lunch. $5 for anybody. Gets all you can eat, and we're going to have Swiss steak, mashed taters and gravy, a vegetable, and I believe we're having apple crisp for dessert.
Well, my goodness, you sound chipper this morning. It sounds like you backed into the electric fence or something. You sound really up and ready to go.
I've got the dishes done.
All right, Joe, we'll send them over to the Senior Junction on Overland. God bless you, my friend.
Thank you. Have a good day.
All right, thank you. Oh, I tell you, I admire that man. I really do. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, this story is absolutely unbelievable as it unfolds, and it gets dirtier and dirtier all the time. And I'm talking about the Covington, Kentucky high school kids. And now this morning, because of fear and because of bomb threats and because of life threats, Covington, Kentucky high school has been closed for today for safety concerns for the students, the teachers, and their parents. Now just think about that for a minute. What if it were Burley High School students, Filer High School students, Valley High School, Jerome? Doesn't make any difference where it is. And they were in attendance at an event, which these high school boys were. They had gone to the March for Life over the weekend to be a part of it and be proud of it in supporting the right to life. Then they were taken around the city of Washington, D.C., and they were watching and looking and observing and enjoying all the national monuments, etc. While at the Lincoln Memorial, they are attacked verbally by a group of vermin, and that's what they are, haters and absolute destitute people of any morals. And then an Indian tribesman goes up to them and starts beating a tom-tom in the face of one of the individuals, and these teenagers stood there in their group They were waiting for the bus. They didn't go around and walk around and run around and circle anybody. No, not at all. And yet they are the ones that various actors and movie producers, listen to some of this verbiage. It's so vile and so filthy. And I'm not making this up. Many of these people have come out and said that these kids should be killed. Killed! What kind of a rotten, absolutely despicable society are we allowing to flourish in this country? One said that they should run them through a wood chipper. Another said that they should lock them in the school and burn down the school. Let's reverse this just for a second. What if they were all Democrat liberal kids? Maybe like Barack Obama's daughters, whatever. What about then if the shoe were where conservatives were doing the attacking to them, all hell would have broken loose in this country and we probably would be under martial law. Think about it. These loons are completely off the rails. And here's the kicker. We, the conservatives, family members, church leaders, and others are not doing one thing about it. These boys were targeted because they are white. They're targeted because they were Christian. And they were targeted because they had support of President Trump wearing the Make America Great Again hats. That's according to one school advisor that stood right there in the midst of these boys and listened to the vile and the filth that were being thrown verbally at these kids. This is despicable. This is absolutely despicable. Now, in fairness, underline that word, many that have jumped on these kids and started hurling rocks at them and epitaphs and everything else, now that they've seen the entirety of the video and understood what really happened, they're coming out and saying, oops, sorry, I guess, and then walking away with their tail between their legs. Many are not. Many are not. Many are still throwing the race card. Oh, they're white kids. They're trash. This is absolutely despicable. Your thoughts, please give me a call, 436-2244. Don't forget Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley with Nick Greenwell and all of the top-notch physical therapists over at Burley Physical Therapy. Wow, do they know all the exercises? Wow, do they know how to help you in that hydrotherapy pool? Oh, man, I've spent a lot of hours in there. It really, really helps. Absolutely. I urge you to call, make an appointment today at 678-1191. 678-1191. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Oh my, guess where we're going to be in just a couple of days? Well, I'll tell you, it's over at Denny's Restaurant for Zeb's Lunch Bunch. And Denny's Restaurant located at 611 North Overland in Burley, and it's going to be fun and good eating. Absolutely. We start at 11:30 on Thursday, and we invite you. Yeah, come on in, join us, have a good time. We got a lot of gift certificates to give away from Walmart and Smith's Foods, Hanson Mortuary, Stokes Grocery, Doug Martin, Denny's, all of this and more. But the food and the service is tremendous with Thomas and the crew at Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley. They are America's Diner. I really don't understand how anybody could not be absolutely incensed over what happened to these teenagers, these boys. They didn't do anything wrong. As a matter of fact, think about this. When you were 15, 16, 17, and 18, and somebody started getting in your face, and somebody started yelling, and the verbiage that was used in yelling names at these kids was I can't even touch some of those names. Nobody can in the media. No, it's so vile and filthy. And then you have people getting in their face, literally, and yelling at them, and white privilege, and you're all a part of white supremacy, and you're worthless, and everything else. And I'm just trying to paraphrase to clean it up. But the boys stood there. Now, the one boy in particular, I want to talk about him a little bit. He has been singled out as the target, the poster boy for the target. And he absolutely showed so much strength and courage. And I admire this young man. He stood there. He looked everybody right in the eye. He did not back up. God bless him. He did not step forward. God bless him. He just stood his ground. Now, I have watched this video, I'll bet you at least, 40, 50 times? And there is one point in the video, maybe you noticed it, maybe you didn't. And I urge you to look for it the next time that it's on television and you get a chance to see it. As he's being harassed with this Indian leader, tom-tomming in his face, there is a student off to the left of the boy standing directly in front of the Indian. And he's up on a step behind the student that is having a face-to-face confrontation. Below that student, there is an activist, an Indian activist that is yelling and swearing at the boy behind him. The boy behind him starts to respond to the Indian activist, and the other boy, follow me now, the other boy that is being face-to-face confrontation with the Indian looks over at the boy in a very quick manner and with his eyes and a quick motion with his hand, basically, shut up. Look at it. You'll see it. The boy that showed all the class and all the courage looked over at the other boy, and he knew that if they were in the middle of a confrontation, the best thing to do is just shut up. And he told the other boy, both visually and with a quick signal, shut up. These boys were attacked, and I hope there's major lawsuits over this. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Well, good morning, Mr. Bell. You know, that you got to give kudos to that young man's parents. They raised a stalwart young man who stood up for what he believed in and didn't cause one iota bit of trouble.
I couldn't agree more. You know, Donna, and please, you know your personality, I know my personality. With somebody getting in my face with a tom-tom and somebody else calling names and just absolutely providing a filthy interchange of names and verbally being harassed, how long would you take it?
About a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
There's no way that I could have done had enough control. I don't allow people to tread on me. I'm usually a pretty easygoing person. But, you know, that man and the rest of those teenagers, they were just there to visit Washington. My goodness. Why were they being attacked?
Well, whoa, stop. Your answer's obvious right there. They were being attacked and they were being harassed because, A, they were white, B, they were there in support to the Right to Life March, C, they were Christians, and D, they were wearing Make America Great Again hats. And right now in this country, that's all I guess you need to do to absolutely have crowds incited against you and maybe bodily injury.
Yeah, you know, I don't understand these people. I guess it's just beyond my realm of thought. What's wrong with these people? This is America. I mean, they have a right to protest by all means, but they don't have the right to infringe their beliefs on anybody else or raise hate and discontent.
Okay, wait, whoa, stop right there, because you made another excellent point. They don't have the right to infringe on our beliefs and our rights. You know what? Right there, live and let live. But I will say this. Look at what's happening around the globe. Look at what's happening right here, even in our state of Idaho, where there are certain groups, just like that group called Add the Words Marchers up at the State House, where they want complete protection for gay and lesbian and transgender people, and they don't want anybody to ever say anything negative about them and their lifestyle, including at churches. And I'm drawing the line, and I'm not going to weaken to these people.
No, me neither. You know, everybody has a right to choose the way they live, and that's okay. I mean, people might not like the way I live either, but I don't try to enforce my religious beliefs or my gender beliefs or anything else on anybody else. You know, that's what makes America great. You have the right to be who you are, but you don't have the right to infringe that on anybody else.
Absolutely well stated. Donna, thank you so much for your call, and it's almost 8:30. I urge you to go get Sleepy Boy out of bed.
Oh, my goodness, he's out and about already. He got up at 6 o'clock this morning. I had to mark it on the calendar.
A world record. Thank you, Donna. God bless you. Appreciate your call.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, this situation is such that it's very worrisome. They had to cancel school today in Covington, Kentucky. Wow. It wasn't because of any illnesses. It wasn't because of maybe going to a sporting event. It wasn't because of a teacher strike. It was because of death threats, bomb threats, and safety concerns for the students after they had done nothing wrong other than go to a Right to Life march in Washington, D.C., and then see some of the sites, historical monuments. You got to ask yourself, folks, where are we? What kind of sleaze, what kind of really sleaze people are on the left? You know, you listen to some of these people. They're Looney Tunes. You know, of course, I don't like Democratic former searching for the presidency, Bernie Sanders. Actually, he's not a Democrat. You might as well call it what it is. He's a socialist. He comes out and blatantly says, Trump is a racist. That's a pretty hard charge to swallow. I know because I've been there. I know because idiots on the left, the Democrats here in the state of Idaho, called me that. And then, of course, you had Democrat Representative Hakeem Jeffries. Trump is a racist. Seems like they follow in unison. And then you have a Democratic Representative John Armuth. Ban all the MAGA caps. They must not be allowed to be out in public. Ban Make America Great caps. What? What? This isn't Hitler's Germany. I don't have to listen to some clown looking for a circus like John Armuth. You and I and anybody else can wear what you want to. Good heavens. And then the leader of the Dumbs, Democrat Nancy Pelosi, Trump is the grand wizard. Oh. And then you wonder why we have problems. And they think they are so saintly. Oh, they think they're so elite. When really, they're acting like pond scum. Calls welcome, 436-2244. Don't leave me hanging. Give me a jingle. 1-866-927-4587. Don't forget Ark Animal Hospital at 750 21st Street near Connection Credit Union in Heyburn. Oh, my goodness, they take care of your animals. Yes, they do. Whether you got itty-bitty kitty cats or puppy dogs or you got a whole bunch of dairy cattle, horses, you name it, large animal or small, they take care and love them all and want them all healthy, too. So Dr. Bill, Dr. Jordan, the whole crew serving you. And if you got a problem, if you've got a health issue with your animals and your pets, call them, 678-1177. Ark Animal Hospital in Heyburn, where they have warm hearts for cold noses. Caller, I'll be right there. Don't go away. I also want to remind everybody about our friends at Dino's Septic Service. Man, I tell you what now. We ran into a pinch about 8-9 months ago, and they really helped us out. They are the best at what they do, and they've recently expanded their business to better serve more people in this area. Septic tank pumping, backhoe services, water and sewer lines installed, septic inspections, liquid waste removal. Ooh, they do it all, and with a smile on their face. Fast, fair, friendly service, and the number to call, 436-6526, or in Burley, 678-1638. Dino's Septic Service, the best, with the big truck that says, smells cargo on the way. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Morning, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the mainstream media, when they get it wrong, they double down on it.
Yeah.
They cannot admit they made a mistake. And my granddad taught me a long time ago, and it stands true today, that a person who is big enough to admit they make a mistake, you can trust them with your life savings. A person that is never wrong, you cannot trust them with a nickel.
Well, let me ask you a question. Of all of this story, and I know that you're a news junkie like I am, and you want to search and find out more about the stories and more about what really happened and everything. But when you look at this story with these kids, and then you look and listen to what really went on, the truth, instead of what some of the liberal loons jumped to conclusions in the beginning. But one of the questions I've had since this very beginning of this issue, Doug, I ask you, where is the support for the kids? Where are the people, their political senators and congressmen from their state? Where is everybody across the board jumping up in defense of these kids? You hardly hear a word.
I know it. And the mainstream media and the leftists in this country is getting their job done by censoring people to stand up. And for evil to succeed, good has to do nothing.
And here's something else that was really elaborated on. I get up earlier than most people. We're up at 4 a.m. And this morning there was a point made by Patricia Heaton. Do you know who she is?
No, sir.
She used to be the star with Tim the Toolman Taylor, the wife.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe that's her. If I'm wrong, I'm thinking of perhaps the wife of Raymond and Everybody Loves Raymond. But one of those two sitcoms. Okay, please forgive me. But she came out and she said, wait a minute. Wait just a minute. Do you realize what's going to happen to these young men for their future? It's going to pop up when they graduate from school and they go to get a job that they were graduates of Covington, Kentucky High School. And then all of a sudden this is going to fall into place as to they were part of this great big problem. And it's going to be an infringement upon them and others of their ilk trying to get employment or whatever. And she's 100% right.
She is. And it's going to affect any past and any future graduates of
That's
that
right.
School. Right. I mean, that high school's got a just like the Duke lacrosse team.
Yep.
Was falsely accused, and for a long time they were shunned and they were looked down upon until they finally, the gal come out and said it was false. But did anything ever happen to the gal that brought up that false claim?
You see, this is what I'm worried about. Everybody in the news media, and Wills, we got a little bit of feedback here. Everybody in the news media that jumped on these kids and used an axe and a hatchet to go ahead and start chopping them up before they really knew the gist of the story. They're walking away from this thing. Where's the retribution? Where's the correction? Where does the needle point at them and say, aha, we're going to get you for not following through as being journalists. All you were was hate mongers. I don't see anything happening.
I don't either. And it's a sad day because what's going to bring this country down is the journalists and the news medias that lie to the people, and the people believe it, and they will stand up for those lies. And that's going to bring this country down.
When I made the comment the other day about how I've said this because I know a lot of these people and their IQs are not, in some instances, the sharpest knife in the drawer, and that's movie actors, movie business in general. And some of these stupid people in Hollywood have come out like this Alyssa Milano and has said that the new red MAGA hat is the new white hood. And then she goes on to say, without white boys being able to empathize with other people, humanity will continue to destroy itself. These are the kind of nincompoops that come out of Hollywood. Or the Hollywood movie producer that said, run those kids through a wood chipper, and then he showed graphically what it would look like on a little news clip. Or another one said, lock them up in the school and burn it down. This kind of thing, if you said that about liberal kids, maybe the Obama daughters or whatever, we'd all be in jail right now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and on that one wanted to do the wood chipper, he also made in that comment, red hat first.
Yeah.
I mean, these people need to stand back and look in the mirror. They need to go back and study actual history on what happened, and they will realize who started the KKK, who was backing the KKK. And it is the Democrats who fought to free the slaves. It was the Republicans.
You know, Doug,
North against South, it was Republicans against Democrats.
I really think, and I mean this when I say this, that if any Democrat, let's start right here locally, right here in the Magic Valley and the state of Idaho, if any Democrat wants to gain kudos from people in possibly running for a certain post or election, the best thing they could do is come out and say, I absolutely abstain from any of this garbage. I am not a part of it. I don't believe in it. And if members of my party support it, I do not and will not stand with them. And those Democrats would probably absolutely have a good fair shot at election. But it's by not saying and doing anything, and basically by not saying and doing anything, basically going along with the flow, I hope every one of them lose and lose big.
Well, Zeb, you got to think about it. If they come out and stated that, they would have zero support from the Democratic Party. They would have zero support from the DNC. They would not get any money. To the DNC, they just as well say that they are a conservative and a Republican because they would not back them.
You know, and Doug, if this is where we're at politically, if this is where we're at in the United States, worrying about sending our kids to school because of death threats and bomb threats, because the liberal left is made up of a bunch of clowns that absolutely misplaced the circus, we have got a problem that absolutely better be addressed somehow right now. Right now. And if it means insurrection in the streets and riots in the streets or a couple of people getting broken teeth and busted knuckles, it might take that to right the ship. I'm not advocating it, but what in the world are we going to do to stop this trend?
We have to stand up. Everybody who thinks this is wrong and knows this is wrong needs to stand up, call their officials, and call these people out on the carpet, call the mainstream media, and just tell them that they were wrong and they are wrong. And that's the only way we're going to stop it, is for good people to stand up.
I agree. Doug, I appreciate everything you said this morning, and thank you for your call. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey, I got a couple quick little points this morning.
Real quick.
And it'll take me about 10, 15 seconds. David Webb this morning stated he was being interviewed, and he stated he has seen the emails from the Democrats to everybody on their talking points. So there is some person sending out emails to these people, and this is our talking points, and this is where we stand, and that's what they do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And Bernie Sanders and OAC is down on capitalism. Bernie Sanders is a capitalist. How many houses does he own?
You know, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I am running short on time. But when you talk about OAC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, I'm going to be talking about her in just a few minutes because, honestly, I had a little criticism hurled at me the other day. And they said, well, you say she's dumb. Well, she's not dumb. Well, listen, prove to me she's not dumb. She doesn't know politics. She doesn't know the branches of government. She doesn't know the values of capitalism over socialism. That's why socialism has never worked anywhere. And then I'm not supposed to say that she's dumb. She's the dumbest woman I've ever seen.
And she also thinks you get ringworm by not having access to health care.
Yeah, I heard that too this morning, and I'd hate to hear her synopsis on Athlete's Foot.
Oh, me too. Anyway, God bless everybody. Let's do what we can for our seniors.
All right,
Take
Doug.
care of them, donate. Go eat there.
I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Barry Equipment and Rental, Sales, Service, and Parts. And they've got 3 excellent locations serving you. And serving is the key word here. With equipment rentals, all kinds of equipment rentals. Retail equipment sales. I mean, they've got it all. I don't care if you're looking for stump grinders to excavators to all the Bobcats. They got a whole slew of Bobcats, different sizes, etc. And you go on in there and check it out today. All of this and more at Barry Equipment and Rental. 159 West Highway 30 in Burley with Juan, Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls with Eli, and the Nampa location. Absolutely the best. Barry Equipment and Rental. This Cortez seems to be the poster girl for the Democrats right now, and I don't know why. If they want to hitch their wagon to that team of horses, that team's going over a cliff. I mean, I absolutely cannot understand how anyone could say, well, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, what a wonderful lady. She's a stupid little girl. 29 years of age. Really never done anything or been anywhere, and she's coming out and slamming and damning capitalism and proposing that all the billionaires basically lose their money. Who in the world builds the businesses? Who hires the people? Who does all the promotion to expand business to create more job opportunities? It's those that have made it, and they are wealthy job and business owners creating more circumstances for bigger and better careers for other people. And she doesn't want that. Oh, no. We've got to stop these people from having all the money. We got to make sure we don't have billionaires anymore. And then she comes out and says that capitalism is immoral. I want you to kind of savor and chew those words for a moment, and then I know you're going to agree with me. She is stupid. Immoral is treating and governing people like what's happening in Venezuela. They're absolutely in poverty because of socialism. They are absolutely living in filth because of socialism and all the deplorable conditions. They can't even get toilet paper. And this stupid woman, and she is, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, hates capitalism because she doesn't understand anything. She doesn't understand the values of living in this, the greatest country in the world, and what it's provided for all these people and her. Don't you dare call me and criticize me. She is a stupid woman. And right now, she has a whole bunch of people following her like little mice going over a cliff. They think she's the darling of the Democratic Party, when she's a dunce. Let's take a look at the weather right now, and the weather brought to you by Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, and they're located right behind the Minidoka Hospital across from the emergency room, and the number to call, 312-0957. Wonderful people that really understand hearing, and they've got 3 great doctors, Dr. Christine Pickup, Courtney Mitchell, and Shane Hunsaker, and I urge you to make sure that if you're having any loss of clarity of hearing or diminishment of hearing, please get a hold of them today. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, 312-0957. Here now is the weather.
We're finally going to see a little bit of sunshine for the day. Here's a look at your weather, expecting mostly sunny skies. Winds out of the west at about 10 miles an hour. We're looking at a high of 31 tonight, mostly cloudy skies with a low of 24. Winds will be picking up gusts as high as 20 miles an hour. For tomorrow, we do have a 20% chance of snow showers, mostly cloudy skies. Still breezy, winds out of the west-southwest at about 20 miles an hour, gusts as high as 35 miles an hour. High of 40 by tomorrow night, mostly cloudy skies, still going to be breezy with a low of 30. Then by Thursday, maybe a few more rays of sunshine and a high of 40. That's a look at your weather forecast for Zebeth the Rain.
Thank you, Gina, and brought to you by our really, really good friends, and that's Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And boy, I'll tell you, I urge you to get a hearing screening. Not going to hurt you. No, as a matter of fact, it's kind of halfway fun. I enjoyed it, and it helped me in my hearing. I urge you to call, make an appointment. 312-0957, Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. What is this, anyway, with white supremacy and white privilege and knocking Caucasians? Oh, those are bad, evil people. What is it all of a sudden within the last 2 years that we've seen an onslaught, a big charge against Caucasians, no matter what they do, business people, politicians, etc.? Well, you're just a member of the whites. You're a cracker. You've got white privilege. Have you ever really thought about what white privilege is, if it is at all? Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Morning. As I'm listening to you, I've been thinking a lot lately, and I'm very confused about why people choose to do evil things. I mean, I know we live in a world of good and bad, and that's the choice we need to make, but I just don't understand what makes people choose to go down the road of wickedness, I guess, to be evil, to hurt other people, to, like you're talking about those boys. Why do people do that to each other, I guess, when I'm trying to, in my own mind, trying to figure this out? I mean, I know that's so how this mortal life works.
Well, let me ask you a question, and please pardon my rudeness for talking about your family, but do you have children?
I do.
How old are they?
My oldest is 36 this year, I think.
Okay.
And the youngest is going to be 28.
All right, well, let's talk about the 28-year-old and back off about 15 years or so to where that person would have been in high school. How would you, as a parent, have reacted if your son or daughter had gone to a rally for the Right to Life March in Washington, D.C. to support unborn babies, and then took a couple of days to go and see some of the monuments in D.C., the Jefferson and Lincoln Memorial, etc., and all of a sudden they were waiting for a bus, and they are completely under verbal attack and hatred, being called white supremacists and white privilege and names I can't even imagine on the air? What would you do as a parent? How would you have reacted?
Well, I would have been very, very upset and scared out of my mind that my child was going to be hurt.
Yeah, absolutely.
They were there without me.
But
I wouldn't be there. I mean, I don't know that I could physically protect my child from something like that, but I would be very angry that someone would do it, and I would hope, it's like the other lady said, she would be really hard to not control her emotions and feelings, and as a parent, I don't know how you can... Well,
I guess the point I'm trying to make is when you and I were in high school, and I'm sure that they did it when you were in school and I was in school, we took a lot of field trips. Okay, so we maybe went down to Chicago a couple of times to the Museum of Science and Industry. We went to other places. What is the difference between us, and by the way, my school was all white at that time. It wasn't because it was discriminatory. It's just there weren't other relationships with any races in that area. And why would we be called crackers or worse or white supremacists or white privilege if we were down in Chicago in those years going through the Museum of Science and Industry? What did we do wrong by just having our skin color and we're standing waiting for a bus?
Nothing, because I feel like I have no control over the color of my skin any more than anyone else does.
That's right.
And I feel like there may have been, and there may be, white people who do bad things, but that doesn't make everybody who's white bad.
And any other race. That's right. I don't care if it's Caucasian, Mongoloid, or Negroid. Those are the three classifications of mankind. You're not supposed to say that today because it's not politically correct. I'm going to.
Well, I think we're too politically correct about everything, and we need to just be human beings who are children of God who want to love each other and quit fighting.
Amen. Thank you. I appreciate your call so much. Call again, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless. Thank you. Caller, I'll be right there. I promise. I just got to get this in. I want to remind everybody about Patterson's wonderful, wonderful people with great buys for you. That's right. Patterson's at 421 East Main in Burley. Curtis and Lorena, these are nice, nice people. And let's talk a little bit about home theater systems. Come home, kick off your boots, sit back and enjoy a home theater system. Oh, boy. Pop the popcorn. We're going to have fun tonight. And they've got all kinds of great TVs with Samsung and Sony and Toshiba, I bit my tongue, Toshiba, and of course car stereos and speakers, complete sound systems, all of this and more. And they're open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6 at Patterson. Stop in and see these really great folks today at 421 East Main in Burley. Caller, you've been very patient. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Deb. Did you ever think you would live long enough to where you would feel what it felt like to be racially discriminated against?
No. I got to be honest with you. I never thought where I went to school, where I went to college, my friends of many, many mixed ethnicities and races. I never in my life thought that right now the table would be turned and this country would have so many vile, stupid people looking at me and other Caucasians and saying that we have white privilege and we're white supremacists. Would you just take 30 seconds and explain to me what the heck is white privilege?
Well, I'm not sure, but I can tell you that I learned from a bad experience myself when I moved to Hawaii several years ago, and the Japanese are the dominant race over there, and I was dumbfounded at how I was treated as a haole.
As a what?
It was an eye-opener for me, but I experienced it firsthand, so it would change my view on things. And then, you know, back to that first question that the last caller said about not understanding why people are the way they are, and just for me, what I've come to feel personally is greed knows no boundaries.
I agree.
And it's not just put into money either. It's people are seeking fame, fortune, you know,
yeah,
and they'll do anything to get it. And those that have no morals, which there are a lot of them, will do anything. There's no boundary.
Well, let me ask you a quick question. I'm almost out of time, but I'm assuming that you work every day. Is that correct?
I kind of moved in over the top of me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm assuming that you work every day, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you work for your paycheck, and you come home and you pay your bills, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and you're not really asking anybody to give you a free ride. You're not asking for a free car. You're not asking for free insurance. You're not asking for anything. So basically what you earn, you get, you spend, and you enjoy. Is that white privilege?
You know, it's pretty sad. I guess it is.
Well, yeah, but what's the difference between whether you're black or brown if they do the same thing? Why does color have to come into it?
I personally, Zeb, believe that we are not created equal. Man is not created equal. Some people are lazier than others. Some people are more intelligent. Some people work harder.
I agree.
We should only really be treated equally under the law because we're not created equal because we don't choose to be equal.
Bingo. That is an excellent statement, and I'm going to remember how you said that. God bless you for your call. I got to run. Thank you so much.
Bye, Dad.
Perfect. I want to remind you about the 7 locations of your great Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. And they are great. They do provide the best in service. And they have the best of tires to get you through all the snow, the yuck and the muck of the wintertime and everything, the ice. Oh, my goodness, all the different tread designs, all the sizes for your cars and pickups and SUVs. What are you waiting for? Don't put it off. Winter ain't over. And they've got all the tires for you, along with the best in brake service and front end alignments and shocks and struts and batteries. I urge you to stop in and see the best. And that's, of course, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and, of course, my buddy Randy on Overland in Burley. Your best Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Caller, I know you're there. I apologize. I'm out of time. Can you call me tomorrow? God bless you. I've got to run to the news right now, and we'll be back in 7 minutes. Wheels, if you would, please. Oh, good morning, and welcome back. Hour number 2, Zeb at the Ranch on a Tuesday, January 2-2. And we're going to have a lot more going on this morning. We've got, hopefully in a few minutes, Pacific Legal Foundation, along with Vic from Stotz Equipment Company, Dr. History, Maria Espinoza, all of this and more. Zeb at the Ranch brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And, of course, don't forget, too, some of our great advertisers like Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Wheels, could we please have this good word for Western Way Services?
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Way Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this free land. Western Way Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Way Services.
Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Wonderful people serving you. Absolutely. Whether it's getting on the route service and having your garbage picked up weekly, or whether you need maybe some certain containers, large waste containers delivered, they've got them in various sizes, small, medium, large, how much junk you've got to throw away, and they'll deliver it. You fill it up, they'll come and get them, or the Go Mini portable storage units. The list goes on. Portable toilets, all of this and so much more at Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Call them at 734-6969. Right now, I also want to remind you, too, about a great business serving seniors in our area, and that's, of course, Minnecasia Hearts for Seniors at 135 East 23rd Drive in Burley with Holly Rowe. Here's the number. I'll say it twice or 3 times. 312-5715. 312-5715. If you're a senior and want to stay at home, but you might need a little help with daily tasks or meal preparation or maybe some light housekeeping, errands, whatever, they can help. They will help. Please get a hold of them today. Minnecasia Hearts for Seniors, 135 East 23rd Drive in Burley, 312-5715. Deanna, did we make any inroads to finding another number? They're trying to get it to us right away, and then we will, of course, get it to Wheels. For some reason, and it's not anybody's fault here, the wrong number was supplied to us for our guests for this half hour, and hopefully we're going to get it in the next few minutes, so stand by for that. Also want to remind everybody about our friends at Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert with Joel Heward, family and staff, serving you and your family. When there's the passing of a loved one, they are there. to help you with the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. I urge you to call, all of us should call, and get more information, pre-information on funerals, and help alleviate a lot of the stress and worry to our family. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert, 436-5636, and Joel Heward also serving you at Morrison Payne Funeral Home on East Main in Burley. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
You betcha, sir. I just was reading this, and I thought it was very appropriate for today. The statement says, I can tell you the truth, but I can't make you believe it. The battle is between good and evil, not parties.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought that was very powerful.
Well, Doug, if there's anybody within the sound of our voices right now that really thinks that there is not an evil motion going on in this country, evil pendulum that is swinging more in favor of evil than good, you have to be blind and can't hear or can't read. You just absolutely can see it every day that evil is taking a prominent part of our daily activity and all of our routines.
Exactly. And that Phil Robinson, I like to listen to his little videos and listen to him. And he opens up the Bible and he explains a lot of stuff in the Bible, what's going on today and what's happening. He is very, very enlightening, and I highly recommend anybody out there to look up his little YouTube statements and stuff, and it is very inspirational.
You know, Doug, I think all of us, we should take the time to read one of the shortest Bible verses in the Bible. It's only 8 words long. Do you know what it is?
You got me on this one.
All right. It's Psalms 46:10. Be still and know that I am God.
Exactly.
There you go.
Yep. Anyway, hope you get your guest on soon.
So do I, buddy, because I'm kind of naked without it. Thank you very much.
It's kind of funny when you're on crutches and you're having to tread water, isn't it?
It's hard to swim that way. The shore keeps getting further away. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Doug. Let's check with Wheels. Wheels, did we have the guest on that other number?
Yeah, sir. I have her on the phone for you now.
All right. Thank you very much. Now, after much ado trying to find this lady, we have Christine Martin with the Pacific Legal Foundation. Where were you this morning, Christine?
Well, apparently my direct line is suddenly broken.
How do you break a line? How do you break a line?
Well, you know, these fancy internet phones.
Oh, boy. Okay. Christine, I'm so glad to have you on because nobody is more of a property rights advocate than I am. I am sick and tired of people saying what can and can't be done on my and your property. There was a case that I've had on many, many times on this program, thanks to the Pacific Legal Foundation, about Rose Nick and private property and access to using her property. What I'd like you to do is give us a synopsis of the case before, now, and what's going on in the future.
Absolutely. So Rose Nick owns a farm in rural Pennsylvania, and the local town passed this really bizarre ordinance that said that local government officials could go onto anybody's property, and if they found evidence of what they thought was a burial site, they could declare the area a cemetery and then open it up to the public. And that's what they did to Rose. They went on her property without her permission, but under the authority of the ordinance, found some unmarked stones on her property, decided those stones were gravestones, and unilaterally declared this part of her land a cemetery and threatened her with $600 per day fines if she didn't open up her private property to the public and then treat it as if it were a cemetery, you know, trimming the hedges and the grass and whatnot.
Oh, my goodness. Now you've really got my blood boiling again this morning. Now, let me ask this. Basically, it's a statement that I want you to respond to. Anywhere in this country, From back in the 1700s to the moving westward across this country, across the Midwest, into the West, and all the way to the coast of California, there are graves of people that have died searching for a better life. They are our pioneers, many of which are unmarked, some are marked, and some are still being found on private property. We are all subjected to this part of a problem because no one really knows where all the graves are. Am I wrong?
No, you're right. And that's exactly right, because Rose does not believe that there are any human remains on her land, but you never know. And in any event, the town, under the Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, if they want to take her private property and open it to the public, turn this private area into a cemetery, they can do that, but the Constitution requires that they pay her for it. They've never done that. Instead, they've threatened her with fines, and that's what led to this case, this lawsuit, and that has made it all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. And in fact, we had argument twice in the case this term.
Okay, now, tell me a little bit about Rose. I mean, this might sound like it's not important, but to me it is. Is she an elderly lady? Tell us a little bit about her.
Yeah, Rose is elderly. She's lived on the property for decades. She used to raise horses there and other livestock. And now she leases out part of her land to a neighboring farmer who grows pumpkins, and there's working farm equipment on this land. She enjoys her peace and quiet and doesn't particularly want strangers walking around on her land. And on top of that, she has real concerns about the liability that would happen from members of the public wandering around on this working farm. And really the only practical way to get to this area is for people to either walk through really unsafe stuff or to go right by her house.
So basically, on a 24/7, 365 basis, Rose Nick has seen her private property, her farm, turned into what could be, and I'm not hesitant at all in using this terminology, kind of an amusement park.
Well, they do require it to be during daylight hours, but that doesn't change the fact that they've taken private property without paying her for it. And so Rose understood this violated the Constitution and sued, originally actually in state court, but the state court wanted her to wait around until the town actually acted on its threats of fines and started civil enforcement proceedings. But Rose didn't want to do that, and she lost faith in the state court at that point. So she went to federal court, and federal courts have authority to hear all constitutional claims except for one, and that is the Fifth Amendment right to being paid when government takes your property. Originally, federal courts heard those cases, but 33 years ago, the Supreme Court made a decision in a case that said you had to bring these kinds of claims in state courts, not federal courts. And that's caused a lot of problems because property owners like Rose are being treated, really subjected to second-class status. And on top of that, sometimes they do file in state court. In some cases, PLF has had, actually. And the government removes the case to federal court because they have that right. Even though the property owner couldn't file it there, they can still remove it to federal court. The government can. And then, once it's in federal court, they say, well, the federal court can't hear the case because of this 33-year-old decision, Williamson County. And so the Supreme Court is now considering, because of Rose Nick, is they're considering overturning this 33-year-old precedent and opening up the federal courts again to enforce our federal constitutional rights. And what that would do is protect everybody's property rights across the country.
I have a couple of questions, and they may be relatively naive, but I don't understand some things, and you're the expert. What about anybody, and I'm talking anybody, that is a neighbor or a friend or whatever, and all of a sudden they had a spite against that other neighbor, and they said, aha, that person, I think, has a cemetery or a burial ground on their property, and we're going to open it up and make sure that it has access for all the public to go in there. Where's the proof? Where do they have to come up with proof that it would be possibly a cemetery?
Well, the ordinance doesn't require a proof like you would have before a jury. It gives these government officials discretion to decide there's a cemetery, and that obviously raises other constitutional questions, I would say. But at its core, the issue here is we don't think the town would be doing this if they would acknowledge that they have to pay roads for doing it. Instead, though, they are threatening people with fines, and they have no incentive to protect property rights if they can just take them away without fear of being sued in federal court.
Is somebody going to gain something in this area? Is somebody financially after Rose Nick? Is somebody after the property? Is somebody wanting to see her have to get so down and out that she has to sell this farm? Is there an underlying motive here whatsoever?
No, I don't think so. There is a neighbor somewhere, well, maybe not a neighbor, but somebody in her town who thinks that an ancestor from long ago, someone he didn't know personally, is buried on her piece of land. And for whatever reason, he went, apparently he went to the town and told them this, and that's probably what precipitated the search. Not altogether clear. But, in any event, even if that were true, the government still has a responsibility to pay you when it takes your private property and opens it up to the public. Now, turning it into a cemetery, as the town has done here, was probably really unnecessary. Had the town approached her, or had the individual approached her and asked her for permission to go with her to go look at the spot, I think she would have been fine with that. But that's not what's happened here. And unfortunately, the town has just forgotten the Constitution, and there's one of the major reasons why is because they have not had fear of being sued in federal court. And so federal courts are really good at enforcing your federal rights. And if we win in the Supreme Court, I think that will change the town's attitude about this ordinance and may end the ordinance altogether.
Let me ask you, be specific. Give me the state and the town and where it's located, please.
Sure. It's in the township of Scott, and it's in Pennsylvania. It's rural Pennsylvania, north of Scranton.
Okay. The reason I asked, and you know this is true, that back over 200 years ago, it was nothing odd for family members to have and adhere to their own burial plots on their own property. And who's to say that when you start going through any property in the state of Pennsylvania, any property in Pennsylvania, New York, you could go over the entirety of the East, and you're going to find burial plots that you didn't know even existed.
That's absolutely right. And in fact, backyard burials, as they're called often, have not been illegal in the state of Pennsylvania. And so really you could have these burial sites across the state. So the ordinance, even if the premise that there were a cemetery on Rose's property were true, it still is problematic and impractical, I think, which is I think what you're getting at. Incredibly impractical.
Yeah. That's exactly what I'm going to say, because if you single out Rose Nick, who's to say that Joe Smith or Freddie Jones or whomever in the neighborhood, they're sitting there and they might be under the same circumstances themselves, but nobody's pointing the finger at them.
Sure. Yeah, it's definitely problematic. And then the ordinance, it could be, I think what you're getting at is it could be weaponized in a way where vindictive neighbors were to use it.
Absolutely.
But the thing is, we already see that in zoning context. So, for instance, most local towns won't enforce zoning ordinances that, say, require houses to not have chipped paint, which is actually an incredibly common ordinance. And they won't enforce it unless somebody complains. And so once someone complains, they get mad, they call, they complain, and the town is now after you and threatening you with fines.
Absolutely.
It's common.
We have a caller with a question, but I want to make this comment to you, if you don't mind, Christine. Right where I live, exactly where I live, and through this entire area, it's all a part of the old Oregon Trail where the pioneers came through on their quest to go to Oregon. And the same circumstance could be availing itself to anybody, any farmer, any rancher that has property in this area because of the old Oregon Trail. If this thing were to persist, and it could create the same kind of a problem.
Yeah, that sounds like it could be a very widespread problem if other towns decided to follow this example.
Absolutely. We have a caller with a question for you. Quickly, caller, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Doesn't that sound a little bit like dominant domain? You know, I don't think that anybody has the right to take somebody else's property and claim it's eminent domain, and I have no disrespect for a burial place, but shouldn't they have some proof that there's somebody buried there?
You know, the lady brings up a good point about eminent domain and the abuse of that. Quickly respond, if you would, Christine. I appreciate that.
Sure. So eminent domain, for people who aren't familiar with it, is just the power of the government to take property and use it for public purpose. And the Constitution actually allows the government to do that, but it requires the government pay you. And so I think if the government wanted to take Rose's property and open it up either as a cemetery or something else, they can do that as long as it's for a public use. But the problem is they have to pay them for it. They have to pay Rose for it, and they haven't done that. And so, yes, it is related to eminent domain, except it's one step removed in that they're not admitting they're using the power of eminent domain. They're saying, no, we haven't taken anything at all. We don't have to pay you. The constitutional protection doesn't apply. It's called a regulatory taking.
Right. You brought up something a moment ago in our conversation that concerns me, because everybody today, not everybody, but those that are out to gain something by suing people, there are those out there. The problem with litigation over whether or not you're protected on your property, or if there's somebody going to trip over a rock, if they're going to sue you, all the litigation that could be incurred by this poor lady, this Rose Nick. I mean, is somebody protecting her in case they do trip over a fence wire or something?
Well, the town hasn't offered her any liability protection, and ultimately, that would go into a takings proceeding. As if the government has taken her property and done this, they've taken the easement themselves, and they have to pay her for it. Then, that would be worked out in the trial court. That sort of thing. The question of insurance and who's going to cover that, I think, would be worked out after being able to get to the merits of her takings claim. The problem is she's never gotten that far. The court threw her case out, and which is why we've had to go all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court just to get a right to have her case, her property rights enforced in federal court.
Have you had a chance as a lawyer to sit down and visit with the township of Scott itself and really visit with these people and try to get into the recesses of their mind as to why they're pursuing this?
No, I haven't had the chance. We've heard, they've briefed it at length, and what's being litigated at this stage is just the question of whether federal courts have a right to hear it. And they say that these claims should be heard in state courts, and that state courts are just as good as federal courts, so they should be heard. But, in the second oral argument, which we just had on January 16th in the Supreme Court, Justice Alito asked a really great question to their attorney, and he asked, do you think federal courts are worse? Is that why you don't want to be heard in federal court? Or do you believe there's a home court advantage for local governments to be heard in their local state court? And I think that goes to the heart of the issue in many cases, where people feel they won't get a fair shake, property owners feel they won't get a fair shake in local court, or it won't be as good as if they were filing in federal court. Whether that's always true or not is another matter, but it is a real factor that even Justice Alito is aware of.
Absolutely. I really appreciate you coming on, Christine Martin with the Pacific Legal Foundation. And Christine, please tell my listeners how they can follow this case in support of Rose Nick.
There is a fire engine going right by my office. You can learn more at pacificlegal.org. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter. And we represent all our clients for free, and we do a lot. We only sue the government, so you can learn more there. Legal.org.
Thanks. Go follow the fire engine. We'll talk to you later. Thank you, Christine. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Fire engine goes by. Oh, my goodness sakes. Christine Martin with Pacific Legal Foundation, private property, and that poor lady, Rose Nick, being dictated to on her farm, her property. Oh, you got to open it up. We think there's a cemetery over there, so we're going to open it up 24/7 and 365, and the damage and the people coming onto her property, that's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Hey, by the way, don't forget our friends at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. And they've got their great big January flooring event going on right now. You can luxury vinyl your entire home. Oh, my goodness. And there's 3 different classifications. $109 per month, or the better LVP, $139, or the Primo, $169 per month. And it includes, of course, the luxury vinyl protection for your home, your kitchen, your living room. Check it out today, and they'll give you all the particulars at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. And, of course, don't forget it's their big January flooring event with Jeff and the whole crew at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More, 459 Overland in Burley. You stop in and see them today. Also want to remind you good folks about Let's Ride. Yes, sirree, Bobby, we've got to talk about Let's Ride. And, of course, this is where the fun is sold. Absolutely at 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays, 9 to 4, and they've got all the snowmobiles. I mean, you walk in that showroom and just stop and go, holy cow, how'd they get all this in here? Well, I mean, along with all the snowmobiles, they've got all the accessories, huge accessory department. And to keep you running, they've got the best doggone service department around. All of this at Let's Ride. 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World, and believe me, it's true. This is where the fun is sold. Well, we've got a little bit of a respite here. There was a person that tried to call me at the end of last hour, and I was flat out of time, and I would appreciate it if you'd call back. I've got about 10 minutes here where I've got a kind of an open forum, and I would love to hear you and give us a call at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I don't like the Democratic Party. I don't like anything about Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Dick Durbin, and especially one little bug-eyed irritant, and that is Democratic Adam Schiff from California. When I look at this guy, a little diminutive, bug-eyed, irritating kid that you hated to be around in high school. He was a pest. Now think about it and be honest. Caller, I'll be right there. Think about it. Everybody in every school in the nation had a Adam Schiff going to their school. I mean, this person always whining and creating problems and trouble. We all knew somebody like that. He's a Dracula looking for blood or a fire looking for more wood. Adam Schiff is a cancer of the Democratic Party that's out just trying to build some kind of a fire somewhere because he hates Donald Trump. That's all he is, a troublemaker. And when you look at him and you compare him to somebody that you went to school with that you said, oh, brother, that guy is a pain in the southern end of the exposure. Everybody had one like him. Every time you see him on TV, you got to remember that. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Morning, Zeb. 2 things to point out. One, I'm sick and tired of people trying to break down the president, whether he's Democrat or Republican or whatever, instead of trying to stop stop what he's doing and denigrate the United States because it's not what they want or it's not part of their agenda. Why don't they try and come up with something better to make things work instead of just try to stop everything all the time? The other is the kid that went to that rally, I heard you talking about it this morning. It doesn't matter if it's a rally in Burley, Idaho about your favorite soda or whatever else it is. It's the point of the matter that everybody's entitled to their opinions and their thoughts and their beliefs, whatever it may be. Whether we agree or disagree, no one has the right to interfere with it and get in the face of the other person and be a jerk like those people were being to those young kids. And it's really frustrating that they'll denigrate kids and these high school kids who are trying to learn and trying to express their beliefs, instead of sit down with them and say, okay, we'll listen to you. Just because you're a kid doesn't mean you don't have an opinion. However, I'll let you go.
Yeah, but wait a minute, Riley. These kids weren't saying or doing anything except waiting for a bus to pick them up to take them back to their home state. And as far as saying or listening to their opinions, they weren't doing anything.
Well, from what I understand, like I said, I've caught bits and pieces of it. Weren't they at a choose to live rally or anti-abortion rally?
No, wait a minute. That was 2 days before. They went to...
I do apologize. I got mixed up.
Yeah. But I want to be sure and let you know that they were just sightseeing when all this took place. They were visiting the Lincoln Memorial, and they were all standing in a group waiting for their bus to pick them up. Nothing was said. There were no marches, no chants, no nothing. And then all of a sudden they were under siege verbally by these loons.
Because they were white kids standing around together in a group.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for enlightening me.
All right, buddy.
I apologize.
Oh, that's all right. Don't apologize, Raleigh. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's got completely out of hand. This thing has got completely out of hand. There is no way in the world that these high school kids should have been singled out, yelled at, cursed at, said the most vile things at, and they did nothing wrong. These kids were standing there. The video goes on and on and on. If you want to look at the entirety of it, go ahead and you will see my point is well taken. They were under verbal assault by a bunch of liberal left loons, many of which should have been locked up because they were crazy. And I give these kids a lot of credit. I do. I give them and their leaders, their chaperones, I give them a lot of credit for standing there and taking it and not becoming aggressive back to the source. And, I mean, for these people, these vermin, to yell at them in words that we could never use in the media, and say that they were white supremacists and of white privilege, the insanity of this situation is getting worse and worse every day. I'd like to hear what your thoughts are. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Another sad note that is connected to last week with a lot of great people. And I had that lady on the phone with us last week talking about the involvement in the Right to Life March back in D.C. to stop abortion and respect and appreciate human life. This is something I heard yesterday, and I really don't care if you think less of me and my emotions, but it broke my heart. And it brought tears to my eyes that last year, in 2018, there were almost over 11,000 more abortions that Planned Parenthood was involved in. I want to say it again. Planned Parenthood was involved in committing more than 11,000 more abortions last year than in 2017. 11,000 more babies killed and put in the trash. These are stories that I don't want to report on this show. I think about all the kids that I've known growing up that suffered a lot of physical maladies, but yet they were sharp in mind and they went out and they achieved something in their life. What right do these vile, filthy, evil people have in killing, in literally killing these babies? Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. While I'm waiting for your call, don't forget Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, all of this and so much more for you, your family, and your business. They are very thoughtful and caring and devoted to serving you. Please get a hold of them today. Make an appointment, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. You get a hold of them today. You know, I've said for many, many times on this program, at the end of the show, the way things were or the way things ought to be. I'll talk about that in a minute, but caller, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Yes, Zeb, I wish you'd change your verbiage there. That's not killing, that is murdering.
Jerry, I am not going to... Just a minute. Killing and murdering, it basically is the same thing. It's a heinous act against human beings, a human life. And the words don't make that much difference. It's an act of absolute taking of a life.
Well, I hate to be an ornery cuss, but my name is Jerry Voss, and I do not believe in murdering our children.
Absolutely.
I think it is a horrible thing. It's a terrible thing, and anybody that can do that shouldn't be, I don't know. I don't know what to do with them. It's just beyond my even thinking.
We're living in a society that doesn't care. And you've thought about this. I think we've even talked about it on the air. That we have no respect for the unborn. And on the other end of the scale, we have no respect for the elderly, almost kind of a hemlock society. Oh, let the old people die, get them out of the way. What kind of a sick, perverted society are we turning into?
Well, I am the elderly, and I guess I'm just a rotten cuss all the way.
Well, no, you are not, and nor am I. But there has to be a restoration of the respect for life.
Well, I understand that, and we need to stand up for our babies. And they're a baby from the day they're conceived.
Absolutely.
And anybody that thinks of it any other way is wrong.
Absolutely.
Absolutely wrong. They're sick in the head.
Jerry, I appreciate your call as always. You've always been there when we've had an issue, and I thank you very much. I've got another caller before I have to go to the weather. Thank you, Jerry. I appreciate it.
You have a wonderful day, and may the Lord bless you and your whole audience.
All right, thank you. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead.
I probably shouldn't bother you, but I have to tell you about an incident that happened at our house years ago. I had a tabby cat that was pregnant, and it was the middle of winter, and she caught pneumonia. And so I took her to the vet, and I believed that the vet would just put her to sleep since she was so sick. And our vet told me, he said, no, I don't want to put her to sleep because these kittens have a right to live. And he said, I think it would be morally wrong if I just put her out of her misery. He said, I want to keep her for a couple of days and see if I can make her better. Now, isn't it pathetic? And he did. But I had to keep her in the house the rest of the year. Anyway, I put up with 6 kittens and a cat in my house simply because our veterinary had more respect for life than some doctors who take a Hippocratic oath.
You know, I didn't know where you were going with that, but I really want to thank you for sharing that story with me this morning. Thank you. I mean that.
You're welcome.
God bless you. Thank you.
And you too. Bye.
You know, folks, I tell you, like I said a moment ago, and I started talking with Jerry, I always say at the end of the show the way things were, the way things ought to be. And that's not wishing us back into the past, but it's wishing us back into more of the value system that we had. I was watching, I got to get this in here real quick. I was watching an old, laugh at me if you will, Hopalong Cassidy movie on TV the other night. It's an old one, black and white, and really kind of frail. But in the story, it was all about a group of kids that were standing up at this school, and they were singing great tributes and praises to our country, the United States of America. And then also they did the Pledge of Allegiance, and they had a prayer. And I thought, there you go. The old values that we are missing. Right there on an old Hopalong Cassidy TV movie. And it made me wish all the more for the way things were or the way things ought to be. Caller, I've got 1 minute, real fast. Go ahead, please.
Oh, Zeb, when I was a young man, I made a mistake and I got a girl pregnant. I was 18, she was 17.
I can't hear you, caller. I've got to have you speak directly into the telephone or I can't hear you. Okay. All right. I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you very much. It was just way too distant. I could not make out a thing, and I apologize for that. We're going to do a weather forecast real fast. And then we're going to talk to my dear friend Vic over at Stoats Equipment Company, so stand by. Don't forget Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company, the very best at providing accounting services to the Mini-Cash area for well over 50 years. I tell you every day about the best in tax return preparation. They've been taking care of us for a couple of years, doing a great job, tax planning, business consulting, retirement planning, all of this and so much more. All you need to do is just pick up the phone and give them a call at either office, Burley or Rupert. Make an appointment and let them help you. Absolutely the best. Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
We're finally going to see a little bit of sunshine for the day. Here's a look at your weather, expecting mostly sunny skies. Winds out of the west at about 10 miles an hour. We're looking at a high of 31 tonight, mostly cloudy skies with a low of 24. Winds will be picking up gusts as high as 20 miles an hour. For tomorrow, we do have a 20% chance of snow showers, mostly cloudy skies. Still breezy, winds out of the west-southwest at about 20 miles an hour, gusts as high as 35 miles an hour. High of 40. By tomorrow night, mostly cloudy skies, still going to be breezy with a low of 30. Then by Thursday, maybe a few more rays of sunshine and a high of 40. That's a look at your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you very much, and brought to you by Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. These people really care about you, your family, and your business. I urge you to make an appointment, sit down and visit with them, and talk about the new tax laws and the deductions and everything else at Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company, serving you and bringing you the weather this hour. Thank you. Holy cow, we've got him waiting on the line. We don't want to keep him waiting. A dear friend, and I want to thank him personally for all the help and assistance he's given my wife and myself, and he's just a super guy to work with, and I'm talking about Vic over at Stoats Equipment Company, your John Deere dealer at 119 Overland and Burley. They do make your life easier. Good morning, Vic. How you doing?
I'm good, Zeb. How's it going?
Not too bad. Well, I can tell you one thing. My father-in-law, I always remember my father-in-law at about this time in January when we had a little bit of a warm spell and the snow started to melt. He was getting anxious, and it was time to grease and oil and gear up and get ready for the spring. What's happening over to Stoats Equipment Company?
Well, we're optimistically waiting for spring as well, and we're excited about what's going on. I think we have a lot of, this morning alone, the optimism is just kind of blossoming. We had a nice young gal there at McDonald's. She inspired us for the day. So starting out day right, and so we have to be optimistic, and I think our farmers are too, but we got to make sure we're ready so that they're ready whenever it's time to plant.
You know, Vic, you just touched on something. You are one of the most optimistic and one of the most gung-ho, straightforward guys I've ever met. And it takes that. People have got to have that eternal flame of optimism. Life's too short to go the other way and be negative.
Well, you know, I always said it doesn't do any good for me to stand up and wave my hands and they say, oh, my God, what we're going to do. So I got to lead by example. I've always put that on myself, and professionalism is always on the forefront. And, you know, it's easy to be optimistic with our farmers because they're great people. They're hardworking. We have a great product that we supply to them, and our service and our parts have really, improved dramatically. And so I am optimistic about it because it's been a blessing to be part of the farming community for the last 31 years I've been employed with our company. So, I mean, there's a lot to be happy about.
What about your involvement again this spring? I'm sure it probably is going to be enhanced with the 4-H and the FFA. What are your plans with Stoats Equipment Company?
Well, we still have our goal of $250,000 for our company, so 25 stores, 10,000 apiece. We've already achieved that, and that's okay because we do things a little differently, and we like to, invest in our community, and we have a lot of FFA and 4-H's in our area, so we got to be fair to all of them, and we try to spread the love as much as possible. And there's a lot of great kids, there's a lot of great leaders out there in the schools, so it's a great investment. I wish more people would jump on board.
You know, no business can succeed and be successful if it doesn't have great people. And I don't know where you found all these great folks, but boy, you talk about personality and helping and serving others. You've got a great staff over there at Stoats Equipment Company.
Well, we do, and it's company-wide, and I think it's our culture, and our core values are quality, integrity, loyalty, caring, and community. So community has always been a big part. It's a tradition, and I'm just, like I said, I'm blessed that our company allows us to invest in our community, and what a better way to say thank you to our customers. And, you know, we need to be self-sufficient, so we need to make sure that we're spending time with our kids, and whether it's a tech school or the 4-H or FFA, rodeos, whatever the case may be, you know, it takes a village to raise a child, and that's our attitude. And yeah, you're right. I'm sitting with 3 gentlemen right now: Kevin George, Brian Jensen, and Marcos Hernandez, and they definitely reflect all the positive things that we're doing in our company, and I think they're happy to be on board, and they love the new culture we have.
You know, one thing I would like to mention right now at this time of the year, I would imagine that you've got a lot of people that have looked at what they need for equipment this year, maybe a change and a transition to a bigger and better tractor. I would imagine a lot of people are coming in and talking to you about equipment, but what about the first-time tractor buyer? Maybe it's a tractor buyer that has maybe about 10 acres, maybe a little horse operation or whatever, and they have no clue what to ask for or what to look for. How do you help them?
Well, there's lots of ways, and the whole thing is like we just hired Kevin George. He's our new inside salesman, so we have a specialist now for those kind of people in the retail business, their needs. So we sell everything from a weed eater all the way up to a big combine. But the whole thing, it's only a good tool if it's a right tool. So we have to make sure that we're putting that person in the right piece of equipment. You're a great example. We brought out 3 different pieces of equipment. You thought you wanted the smaller one. You ended up, because we were able to make that price match the smaller one, and it was affordable, it was in your budget, and it was the right tool for you. And I think you really you appreciated that, and that's our philosophy. Well, we want everybody to come down, put their butt in the seat, and make sure it's the right piece of equipment. And I'm not going to say something that's not right for you.
Absolutely. And the thing about Stoats Equipment Company, they make your life easier. There's more there than just tractors. I mean, you got a lot of other things for maybe the urban person to stop in and enjoy.
Well, absolutely. We have the Honda lines. We have generators. We have chainsaws. We have weed eaters. We've got the Yeti coolers. We've got the Traeger smokers. We've got the apparel. I mean, you gotta jump on the cool bus and get a John Deere hat and wear some of the apparel that we have. And if we don't have it, one of our stores might have it. And if they don't have it, we can get it for you. But our whole thing is that we've got to demonstrate value. And when it comes to a close price, or you're in a bid war with somebody, it's amazing how value always makes a difference. Because it is the ultimate winning deal winner, because it really does allow people to see what we do. And there's value doing business with people that invest in the community and that care about you and want to make sure you have the right piece of equipment.
You know, Vic, I've got a picture in my mind's eye. Every time I hear a howl in the background, I think you're sitting on the side of the freeway letting traffic go by at 80 miles an hour while you're talking to me. Is that right?
Absolutely, sir.
I was
always the priorities, Ed.
I was really concerned about your welfare. Well, listen, God bless you, and thanks for pulling over and talking to me. Ladies and gentlemen, the best. Vic and the crew at Stoats Equipment Company, your John Deere dealer at 119 Overland in Burley. They do make your life easier. Drive with care, my friend. Thank you so much for being on the program.
Thank you, sir, and happy trails.
All right. God bless. Thank you much. I kept hearing those semis going by vroom, like this, and I had him pictured in my mind's eye that he's sitting on the side of the freeway, and he was. What have we got coming up? I'd love to have a couple of calls. Give me a jingle, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, I was talking just a little bit ago. I want to finish this thought about Hopalong Cassidy and the old Western movies, etc. We had a better value system back then. I dare anybody to tell me I'm wrong. Well, it's diminished and almost gone now. We used to have more pride in country, respect for family and neighbors, and we knew what was right and what was wrong. More so then than we do now. Caller, quickly, you're on the air.
Yeah, Zeb, can you hear me now?
I can. Go. I got 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, when I was 18, I got in trouble with a girl, and she was 17, and we had talked, because in Oregon you could go get an abortion, but not in Idaho. We spoke about it because we were afraid. We were scared to death of everything. And so we spoke about it, but it never crossed our lips again. And that man lives in Buell, and he's as good a man as there is, strapping, hard-working, responsible man. I have 11 children and lots of grandchildren. They're my best friends. And on a Sunday, while I'm sitting in church, I look at all the little children and the babies, and I say, if that doesn't prove to you that God exists and these children are children of God, then you're a blind, careless SOB. And I says, killing babies I do not know what awaits these people, but I tell you what, I wouldn't want to be them.
Absolutely. I appreciate your calling back so that you could relate that story to us, because I was deeply saddened when I heard that about Planned Parenthood, and I'm going to continue to fight those people. Thank you. I got to run to the news, but I thank you for your call. Thank you. God bless. Thank you. I'll tell you what, it doesn't take much to tee me off, and when I heard that, it was just absolutely another nail in the coffin. We need to restore some values in this country, and don't sit there and go, well, what we're doing is just fine. No, it's not, and it's not working. Well, I'll be back in 7 minutes. Don't go away. The problem is when Dr. History gets here, we get to visiting, and sometimes we just kind of let the program go on by itself. Morning, everybody. I'm Zeb at the Ranch, Zeb Bell, with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And don't forget, too, some of our great advertisers like Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Want to remind you on Thursdays, don't forget we've got an excellent segment with Cassia County School Days, and it's at 10:10 on Thursdays, brought to you by A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley. And right now, all the winter clothes are 40% off and coats 50% off. Woo! You better get in there and save money at a family store. A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley, bringing you Cassia County School Days on Thursdays at 10:10. And now, Ladies and gentlemen, right out of the limousine, up the red carpet, along with his entourage, here's Dr. History.
How about an old beat-up pickup?
I thought that.
Yeah, okay. So, Zeb, I've added 2 things to my bucket list.
Uh-oh.
I've got an aunt and uncle here from Kentucky, Ron and Ann.
They're here now?
Yeah, they're at our house.
And they're listening?
Yeah.
They better be.
They were talking to me about the Kentucky Derby.
Oh, really?
I would love to go back and watch the Kentucky Derby.
Oh, you know
someday.
something? I have had an opportunity, and then I had to pass it by.
Yeah.
But, your wife would have to have a big floppy hat.
Well, we can do that.
Yeah.
Now, another thing on my list, Jill from Reno has invited me down to go to Virginia City, the Donner Pass, a bunch of historical stuff down there that she said, come on down and her and her husband would take.
We need to do that. I say we, I'm including myself because I'd love to do that myself.
Anyway, I would love to go down there and go through all that stuff that I've talked about.
Absolutely. Well, do it.
Never been there.
It's on your bucket list.
It is. It's there.
Is
it's
it
in the bucket.
Is it an expensive bucket or a cheap little plastic bucket?
We'll have to see.
Oh.
So today... Okay.
What are we going to talk about?
We're going to talk about the life of a soldier in the Old West.
Oh, boy.
Now, I've read a lot about these guys, and it makes me wonder why they would even volunteer in the first place. But
were a lot of them hard cases in society that needed a way out?
I don't know. I think there truly were some that thought they were, maybe this was a good thing to do, and I don't know.
Kind of like the Ken Turner type personality?
Well, yeah. So today we're going to talk about the rules and the punishments that took place among the soldiers.
Oh,
all right?
Punishments.
Yes.
Oh,
okay. So anyway, the rules for the Army personnel were clear. They were strictly enforced. Soldiers were expected to be on time with everything, attentive, diligent, obedient to their superiors at all times. So discipline was very, very important.
Okay.
And punishments were harsh, and I'm going to talk about those.
Okay.
But even minor infractions of the rules could result in sometimes a pretty severe penalty. And because soldiers had to respond to orders instantly and without hesitation during campaigns and in combat, discipline was critical. And I can understand that. If you hesitate when you're ordered to do something, sometimes that's not good. So,
yeah, well, I know I can speak to that because when Deanne says something, she says frog, I jump.
Yeah. So, estimates place the incident of enlisted men undergoing punishment at any one time at about 10%. Okay. Now, some infractions were more serious than others, obviously. Examples of lesser violations included being drunk, brawling, getting in fights, gambling, making noise after taps. And I didn't realize that was a bad thing, but after they play taps, you got to be quiet.
You got to shut up.
Yeah. Theft, brief, unauthorized absence. In other words, you kind of
away without leave.
Yeah. Tardiness. Soldier might be penalized merely for being dirty. And when I read that, I thought, okay, you're out in the middle of nowhere. How do you stay really clean?
Sandbath.
Yeah. So anyway, in these cases, the offender was generally punished by the company commander or the commanding officer of the post.
I got a dumb question.
Okay.
How did they tell time?
They had watches back then.
I know they did, but not necessarily all the men on the frontier.
Right. I don't know.
You're supposed to have all this stuff at the tip of your fingers.
I don't know that.
Okay.
So, now, technically, charges could be filed in these instances for a court-martial, but to avoid delays and the red tape and all that stuff, the Army preferred that the officers deal out the punishments for any of the misconduct at their own discretion. Now, that was a pretty wide open discretion.
Boy, if somebody didn't like somebody...
Yeah. Now, the more serious violations and chronic bad behavior by a guy, like repeated cases of insubordination, which I think that's, like talking back to the officers and stuff, unauthorized absences or drunkenness, this might actually warrant a court-martial.
Really?
The most serious crimes, such as murder, rape, treason, now these obviously were subject to court-martial proceedings and could be punished by death.
Yes.
So other potentially capital offenses, including striking a superior officer, and the one that we've seen before is being caught asleep on guard duty.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
I think back when General Washington and they were in the cold, that, you know, I mean, and they're supposed to be staying awake when it's cold and miserable. And anyway, now the customary punishments for minor infractions included extra duty or restriction to quarters, unpleasant fatigue details, and
what does that mean?
I would say that's digging holes for other people to use. Would be a possible fatigue.
Well, you kind of explained it without explaining it.
Okay, thank you. And various physical punishments, even some of the cruder punishments, such as forcing a unruly soldier to carry a heavy log or a cannonball around the post. And this was condoned by the Army, so he might have to carry this log or this cannonball around all day long for doing something.
I'll bet you at the next game he didn't drop that cannonball.
No, he didn't. But, you know, more conventionally, the rule breakers could be sent to the guardhouse, or they could be fined by the commanding officer.
Do you remember the old John Wayne movies like Fort Apache and that?
Yeah.
Remember that sergeant that was always drunk and thrown in the brig? The big sergeant?
Oh, yeah.
He was one of the stars of the movie, really.
Well, the guardhouse was a typical punishment. But, you know, some misconduct that was supposed to be dealt with officially was punished, quote, off the record by the other men in the company.
Ooh.
Now, an example of this is if you were stealing from another soldier in the barracks, and the men regarded this as a pretty serious crime.
Yeah.
You didn't steal from your fellow soldiers.
No.
But these thieves usually received a pretty severe beating from their fellow soldiers, and the sergeant conveniently just kind of looked the other way.
It happened out behind the building.
Yeah, and this proved to be a pretty effective way to deter theft.
Imagine that.
You know, I'm not going to steal somebody's stuff. Now, a more official punishment was confinement to the post guardhouse. Sentences ranged from few days to even 6 months, depending on the offense. Now, soldiers who failed to report for their duties could spend up to 30 days in the guardhouse. The men sometimes referred to the guardhouse as, quote, Barracks 13.
Mm-hmm.
Another slang term for the guardhouse was, quote, the mill.
The mill.
Yeah, and the repeat offenders were called mill birds. So if they kept getting put in the guardhouse, they were called mill birds.
How were they treated inside the mill?
Well, I'm going to get to that.
See, I'm already inquiring minds want to know.
So the guardhouse prisoners might be assigned, like I say, to unpleasant jobs around the post, like collecting garbage or cleaning the stables. Being drunk was sometimes punished by having the man dig a big hole and then bury his bottle of liquor in it. So that was punishment, you know. Now, there's a guy by the name of Corporal Emil Bodie, and he described the fate of one hard-drinking recruit. And he said, quote, when drunk and noisy, he would be locked up in the guardhouse under hard labor, taken out to work his headache off. He would usually be convicted to a month in the guardhouse with a loss of $10 pay. Now, and sometimes the loss of pay was harder on them than the physical.
What did
punishment.
they get paid?
Not more than like $15, $20 a month, maybe.
A month.
A month, yeah.
Wow.
Now, a stiff sentence might include solitary confinement for 2 weeks on a ration of bread and water. Now, bread and water just by itself doesn't sound really good.
See, now, there's the Nutrisystems diet we've been looking for.
Yeah. Well, they probably lost a little weight in there during that 2 weeks. Now, the original solitary confinement cells of the guardhouse at Fort Laramie, now get this, they were 2 feet wide, 5 feet long, and 5 feet tall.
Oh, I'd go nuts.
So I mean, it's so small that...
Oh, my goodness. 2 feet wide?
Yeah, and you could not stand upright, and you couldn't lay down flat.
How long were they in that circumstance?
Whatever. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever.
Oh, my goodness. I'd come out of there completely bonkers.
And then, again, being given bread and water, you know.
Well, so how did they rest?
However they could, I guess.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Next week when you get here, I'll have a cardboard box built 2 feet
just for that.
By 5 feet by...
And we'll see if we can get in it.
Well, I know you can.
Okay. Now, the other thing, they slept on the bare floor with only their filled blanket for bedding, so just a blanket, and this, that had to be cold in some of the climates. But another punishment for serious crimes might be a period of hard labor strapped to a heavy iron ball and chain, and sarcastically nicknamed Uncle Sam's watch and chain. So actually chained. Whoa. You've heard the term ball and chain. Well, that's where it came from.
Yeah, but for somebody to be put in that circumstance of that cell that you mentioned, 2 feet by 5 feet by 5 feet.
Yeah.
I do not imagine how anybody could live through that.
Yeah. I mean, it'd drive you nuts, really.
Well, I'd be bonkers in the first hour.
Well, now, in addition to this, and sometimes instead of jail time, some offenders actually just paid a fine. As I mentioned, for some soldiers, this might seem like the most painful punishment of all, just having reduced pay. Now, a common penalty for a relatively minor offense was a month's pay. Now, fines were usually turned over to the company fund, which perhaps kind of made it a little easier because at least the other soldiers would benefit from the loss. So I don't know if they pooled it together and had a party or whatever. But now most officers were pretty fair and humane in meting out discipline, and the soldiers usually agreed that most punishments were deserved. But at isolated posts where higher-ranking officers might be hundreds of miles away, the post officers who were inclined toward bad stuff could often get away with some pretty mean and cruel things. And I'm going to talk about that.
Goodness.
Too. But imposing harsh physical punishments, although incidences of such abuses pretty much declined after the Civil War and pretty much died out by about 1890, but there was a lot of frontier soldiers at the time that had some pretty brutal treatment in the name of discipline.
I'm going to, remember Andy Devine?
Yeah.
Jingles.
Yeah.
And he played a corporal in the United States Army in the old days, Western movies and everything. How are you going to put that guy in a 2-foot wide cell?
Yeah. You're going to have at least 2 of them. Now, a common punishment in the early and mid-1800s was flogging. Okay.
Oh.
Now, this was officially abolished in 1861, but the practice continued behind the scenes for many years. A penalty of 50 to 100 lashes was not unheard of. Even a law-breaking civilian might find himself at the business end of a whip. British explorer Henry Stanley, who worked as a journalist in the American West, witnessed one incident in 1867. He said a man accused of giving a bottle of whiskey to some soldiers was sentenced without trial to 100 lashes.
Whoa.
Stanley described the scene in detail, and I'm just only going to tell you a little bit of this, because it's pretty gross. It's pretty gruesome. Here's what he said, quote, "Before 16 strokes had been administered, blood was welling in streams down his legs." And again, after the 50th stroke, and again, I'm not going to go into how bad this was. It was bad enough that the men that were watching put their hands over their ears and turned away. They couldn't stand to watch what was happening to this guy.
Well, the person couldn't have made 100, could he? He'd have died.
I don't know. Now, you've heard the term "cat's out of the bag."
Yeah.
Okay, well, the way that came about was they had a cat o' nine tails that they used, maybe not here, but on ships and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And they kept that cat o' nine tails, which is a bloody mess, in a bag that was soaked with blood. So the term "the cat's out of the bag," that meant that the cat o' nine tails was coming out and somebody was going to get punished.
On that nine tails, didn't they have at the end of those leather thongs kind of like hooks tied to
or
it?
a little piece of bone or something.
Oh, my goodness.
But
you sure have made my day for lunch.
Punishments in the frontier army could be both cruel and unusual. A prisoner might be tied up by the thumbs with his feet just touching the floor.
Ooh.
A punishment occasionally meted out at Fort McPherson, Nebraska, involved, get this, tying the offender's legs together and throwing him into the Platte River. As soon as he struggled his way back out of the water, he was thrown back in. And a similar technique was used at Fort Laramie, Wyoming, where the accused was dunked in the nearby Laramie River. And this was especially effective when the river was covered with ice. You broke through the ice, and
I'd say that would be effective.
Get thrown back in.
Yeah, but how would you get thrown in if it's covered with ice?
Well, I think they broke the ice just enough so that he could get
I can see you bouncing along on the top of the...
Yeah. Now, an even worse practice was what they call the spread eagle. Now, in this, the offender...
I don't think I'm going to like this.
You're not going to. The offender was stretched out on his back with his hands and feet tied to stakes in the ground. He was left to lie this way out in the sun, the rain, or the snow for hours. And a variation of the spread eagle was to tie the man to a wagon wheel, similar, stretched out like spread eagle.
Yeah.
Now, another very...
Hopefully nobody got in and started the team up.
Yeah. Another thing, the technique was called bucking and gagging. Okay. Now, here the soldier was strapped to a chair with his wrist tied to his ankles. Okay.
Wrist tied to his ankles.
Okay.
Okay.
And a rag, a stick, or a bar of soap was put into his mouth. So, that was called the bucking and gagging.
For how long?
I don't know. Now, another pretty highly uncomfortable...
That's not going to make an Ivory soap commercial on TV.
Another highly uncomfortable and potentially hazardous punishment was called, quote, on the chimes. Now, in which the prisoner had to balance himself for hours on the rim of an open barrel. Now, if the man lost his balance, he might fall off the barrel, or he might fall in the barrel. But if he fell, his time was extended until he'd completed the punishment. And this typically went on for a half day or even a full day, standing on that barrel. I mean, keeping your balance.
A guy like me'd be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, me too. I'd be, anyway. Now, some Army punishments focused more on disgrace than discomfort. Now, occasionally an offender was forced to walk around the post wearing a barrel suspended from straps over his shoulders. Now, this kind of...
I saw a guy like that at the University of Wisconsin when I went there.
So this kind of... It was a humiliation, and usually that was given out to guys that had been drunk.
I see.
So...
Yeah, he was too.
Yeah. So, the soldiers convicted of the more serious crimes were usually given a dishonorable discharge from the Army, and even repeated minor offenses, such as a guy that kept getting drunk all the time, might get a man discharged to avoid the expense of continually keeping him in the guardhouse. So instead of just throwing him in, they just gave him a dishonorable discharge. Now, some of those guys that were dishonorably discharged later tried to re-enlist under a false name. And that amazed me, too. Why would you want to re-enlist? But the discharges generally followed a conviction in a court-martial proceeding, and there were also less formal ways of relieving a man of his duties. A repeat offender might actually be branded, have his head shaved, and be kicked off the post in Indian country. Branded.
With a hot iron?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Now, officially...
Where did they brand him?
Actually, I'm going to get to that.
I figured you would.
Okay. Now, officially, desertion. Now, that was a capital crime in the Army.
Yeah.
But in practice, the execution of deserters was pretty much rare. It didn't happen all that often to be executed. Now, deserters, if they were caught, were usually sentenced to a period of confinement before serving out the remainder of their enlistments. Now, in some cases, deserters were imprisoned for as long as 2 years at hard labor, followed by a dishonorable discharge. And before the practice was outlawed in 1872, soldiers caught trying to escape were this is the branding thing, sometimes branded or tattooed on the face or body.
The face?
Or body with a large letter D. Okay? And then they were drummed off the post. And after tattooing was banned, the D was sometimes drawn on the guy's chest in indelible ink, which took a lot of washings to get rid of. But they actually branded and tattooed some of these guys. D for desertion.
On the face.
Yeah. So, it was a serious problem. Between 1867 and 1890, an average of approximately 1/3 of enlisted men deserted. Now, in Custer's 7th Cavalry, 512 men deserted in 1 year.
Wow.
They're the ones that lived.
They didn't like him.
No. But after the pay rate for a private was reduced from $16 a month to $13 a month in 1871, the desertion rates just went crazy. They're not going to go for a pay decrease and stay in there. Well, in the late 1880s and 1890s, the Army took steps to try to reduce desertion, and they started offering incentives as pay raises after 3 years of service, re-enlistment bonuses, and the option of an early discharge. So there were some things that kind of came around to improve the life of the soldier.
Wow.
Now, besides reducing the Army's manpower, deserters tended to create another serious problem for the Army. When those guys left, they didn't just leave everything behind. Loss of property, okay? Deserters often took Army property when they left, including horses, saddles, weapons, ammunition, food, and whatever tools and equipment they could haul as they took off. So in 1875, the Army estimated that about 2/3 of its missing handguns were stolen by deserters.
No kidding.
So, moreover, the deserters caused the Army the additional expense of recruiting and training replacements.
Wow.
So the Army offered a reward of $30 for catching deserters, and excuse me, and this motivated some soldiers and civilians to turn these guys in when they caught them. But a soldier who deserted was said to have taken what they call, quote, a French leave. That's what they called a deserter.
It just means an extended vacation.
Yeah. But, you know, it was boring. It was hard work. Punishments was there.
And the food was lousy.
Yeah, I mean, no wonder. And actually, some of the men, when they got in there, decided that they kind of were afraid of fighting. They didn't want to go out and fight Indians or whatever. So the low pay, the remote postings, primitive accommodations, some of these guys tried to desert within weeks after getting to their assignment. But now adding to this whole situation, when the gold rush started in 1849 in the Black Hills in 1875, the gold rush, a lot of these guys joined the Army so they could get out to the gold fields, then deserted just to go.
My goodness.
So anyway, that's kind of, you know, some of the bad things that happened. And,
Holy smokes.
You know, I'm glad things have improved over the years.
You're not a very good recruitment poster.
You know,
for
but
that.
I've got to tell you, Zeb, and I know you like this too, that as far as our military people today, I have the utmost respect. They are underpaid and underloved, and I want to pay the highest respect to our military people that are serving for our country.
We do on this program every single day, and you know what was really heartwarming? I got to share this with you real quick. I'm almost out of time. During the Christmas holidays, I heard from so many of them in our audience, and they said, thank you for what you do on the air. And that made me bubble up and really be thankful.
Well, I am forever grateful for those men and women.
Yep, absolutely.
That serve, yes.
All right, well, I learned a lot. I learned that I was going to be Joe Good Guy if I went in there, because if they put me in a 2x5x5 cell, I'm toast. I can't handle that.
You better stand up straight and say, yes, sir.
I am. Right now I'm going to say by yes, sir, Dr. History, yes, sir.
Okay.
God bless you and thank you. And now you can go back and visit with your relatives.
Yes.
Yeah. And if they're bad people, put them in a 2x5x5 cell.
That's not going to happen.
Okay.
They're good people. I love them.
Well, God bless you, and we'll see you next week.
Yep, I will be here.
All right. Dr. History right here on Zeb at the Ranch. And we are going to send it back over to our main studio, and Wheels is going to take us through the next 3 minutes. We'll be right back.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb back.
I want to remind everybody the Super Bowl is just a couple of weeks away, and boy, can you enjoy the big game on a big TV with big savings from Quali's Electronics, 1730 Kimberly Road in Twin Falls. Oh my goodness, they've got all the big screen TVs, and you're going to save a whole bunch of money. So get in there today and talk to my friends, Bruce Qualley and the rest of the crew at Quali's Electronics, 1730 Kimberly Road, long known for having the best of your entertainment at Quali's Electronics. Believe me, when they say big sale, big savings on big TVs for the big game, you better get in there today. Quali's Electronics in Twin Falls. There's a lady that's been on my program quite a few times, and I have the utmost respect for her and what she's trying to do. She is the national director of the Remembrance Project, which honors and remembers Americans and legal residents who have been killed by illegal aliens. And I'd like to welcome back to the program again this morning, Maria Espinoza. Good morning, Maria. How are you?
I'm doing great, Zeb, and great to be with you, so thanks so much for including me once again.
Maria, you are always welcome on this program because you are what I would term a straight shooter. You tell it like it is, you tell the truth. And before we get rolling on the subject of the border and Trump and everything else, another circumstance, and it looks like this person was an illegal alien and a serial killer in Nevada, murdering for no reason that's really been given that's any kind of a reason at all, 4 people, and didn't have to happen, but thank goodness they've got him. What are your thoughts on illegal aliens and some of the heinous crimes that are being committed in this country?
Well, Zeb, it is unacceptable for these so-called representatives who are supposed to be serving and protecting Americans to be okay with the body count of American bodies increasing while they do nothing. And they stall, they obstruct this America First president. And look, Connie Coon, Sophia Renkin, Gerald David, Sharon David, both brutally killed and 100% preventable, permanently separated from their loved ones. I'm really getting the feeling, Deb, that these politicians do not care, on both sides of the aisle, do not care if more and more and more Americans are killed by people who shouldn't be here in the first place.
I agree with you. The callousness and the disregard and disrespect for human life is appalling. And I'm glad you said both sides of the aisle. I don't care if it's the Democrats that, to me, haven't got the sense to come out of the rain, or if it's the Republicans that are cowards and they won't speak up. But I agree with you. When some of these legislators get on TV and are questioned about illegal alien crime, and then they turn around and they say to the interviewer, oh, well, there's a lot of crime by legal citizens, too. This is disgusting. These crimes by illegal aliens do not have to happen to us. They do not have to happen in this country because they shouldn't be here.
Exactly. You're exactly right. And thank God for people like you who are a platform for us to get the information out. You know, we're doing all that we can, Zeb. I know you are as well. And your listeners certainly need to be doing what they can and calling and emailing and just hounding these individuals, but also at the same time identifying the America First candidates for 2020. It's really sad that we cannot remove these so-called legislators when they're not doing their jobs. In the private sector, if we did not do our job, that we would be fired on the spot. We would not be given a year and a half or 2 years or 6 years grace period and still be paid, and they're not doing their job.
Well, I can attest to that. You're 100% correct. When we send them back to Washington, D.C. as our national representatives, as senators and congressmen, and they are enveloped in the Potomac fever of everything goes on for them instead of them working for their constituents, I'm fighting mad over this. I have been arguing and arguing for months to get more of a response from our congressmen and our senators to the constituents that live here. And they seem like they're too busy to talk to the people that gave them the job.
Exactly. It's to reach them and be able to have a conversation and not be filtered through their office by a 23 or 24-year-old who will decide whether or not your matter is important enough to give to the representative. That's a sad case in itself. So we have these youngsters with little to no life experiences running these offices and determining whether or not your call, Zeb, is important enough to reach your representative. And that's a whole entirely different issue. But right now, we have to stop the bleeding. We're just stopping the Americans being killed, and we don't know who is here. And then we're negotiating. We're told that we have to negotiate with people who are non-citizens, who have broken the law. Their parents have broken the law, who have had plenty of time to get right with American people and our laws. And they absolutely refuse. We cannot negotiate. on our national security and the lives of our children and our future.
Is this turned into a game, Maria? And I'm not trying to be trite when I say this. Has it turned into a game of political gamesmanship? Oh, well, here, I want this. Oh, well, here, I want that. Oh, the heck with border security. Let's see if we can incorporate a little extra money for this in our bill and for you in this bill. I am fed up with a lack of response from our politicians, like you mentioned a minute ago. They are not doing a doggone thing for border security that needs to be shut down.
Right. What this has exposed is that game. I think we have all known that there were politics as usual. Well, we've had enough, especially when it comes to our livelihood. Our communities are not safe. Our children are not safe. We have gang members sitting next to our children in our classrooms. Look at these 4 individuals being killed in their homes just for no reason. Yes, we have enough crime committed by Americans. Why are we importing crime? Why are we not doing something? We're sitting ducks here. And yes, this does show that these political games are even heightened. But it tells us that we have to hound these guys. And I think hounding is a good word. It's not, maybe not as aggressive as we need to be, but we certainly need to be hounding them every single week and not stop and let them know that we're going to call them out and expose them for the lies that they have told all of us and that they're not doing their job. And we have to be very smart. We're right on the verge here of falling off that cliff, Zeb, and if we don't get working really hard these next 2 years, we're sunk. That open borders that we have now, you can see that additional and larger caravan coming through, and they have no intention of doing it the right way. They have every intention to invade our country, and yet everyone's just sitting on their hands looking at one another, saying that they have filled their re-election campaign coffers with the lobbyist money, the blood money that I call it. They simply are so far removed from everyday actions and our lives that they're not doing one thing to help our country and to help us, the citizens.
Maria, explain something to me. Why is the American public today, in your opinion, so gullible and so naive? Why will they listen to someone like Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer or Dick Durbin, and yet they will turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to someone like I had on my program 2 weeks ago, the Vice President of the Border Patrol Council, and he laid it out and said how serious it is, how dangerous it is with the murderers and the rapists and the drug runners and everybody else trying to get into this country for who knows what reason. Why won't they listen to people like him instead of these idiot gumshoes like Schumer and Pelosi that have never been there?
Right. Well, let's take a look. You've got the media keeping most of the people who are still watching ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, you name it, CNN, keeping them in the dark and feeding them lies over and over and over. And then we have the Republicans who, again, sitting on their hands. Where were they when Obama was just directing the border agents to let illegal aliens in groups of 6 or fewer pass, or who showed up at the border with 40 pounds or less of drugs to pass? Where were these so-called legislators? Why weren't they telling us and informing us and taking the border agents like the individual who you had on? And I got my information that I just mentioned from a border agent here in Texas who testified before our state Senate to those facts. And yet, where was the outcry? You're absolutely right that they are doing nothing. They have theirs, and they don't care what our country looks like. But, all of us out here do care. We care about our country, and we have to be able to share the truth. Unfortunately, those mainstream media, the fake news, they're not changing. Their goal is to ruin America and they're all for and all in for the globalization of our unique America.
Let me ask you this, Maria, and you've been on this program many times, and I always appreciated your honesty in going into the various aspects of this problem. But Donald Trump, I look at Donald Trump's administration, and right now I'm really concerned. I'm worried, I'll tell you that he can't capitulate. He cannot give in anymore, whether it's on DACA or whatever. He can't do it, because if he does and he opens up the government, he's lost. He might as well send it in for the next 2 years because it's over, and so are we. What are your thoughts on what he needs to do as far as the next 2 years?
Well, what he should have done, and what should have passed by the majority of Republican House and the Senate, is to build that wall. No compromising, and this is the reason. People say, well, you have to compromise to get something. No, we don't. Not when it's wrong. It's wrong to cross our borders illegally. As far as the DACA recipients, they're all the way to 37, 38 years old. They have had plenty of time to get right.
Yes.
And if we continue to compromise, which is what we've done since the Reagan administration, we'll be in the same situation, but we're in a worse situation now. And we know that these caravans I mentioned are coming over. They care nothing for our laws. So President Trump does not and should not compromise. We need our wall built, a system that protects this country, protects the citizens, and that cannot be reversed with another open border administration like the previous administration. It's a lot easier to just turn off those drones, turn off the technology, tell our border agents to once again stand down, than it is to tear down a wall system, different barriers according to the topography.
I don't understand.
To see and feel that wall, that before we think of anything, so no compromising when it comes to the safety of our country.
Absolutely. Here we have the media. And I'm going to blame 99% of the media for being nincompoops, and they are. Whether it's CNN or MSNBC, NBC, it doesn't make any difference who. When they sit there with their talk show figures on the air and they say there is no border crisis, it's all hyped up, it's all manufactured by Donald Trump, it's all a lie, and yet we have person after person, 1,400 a night coming across our borders. We've got a caravan that came up to the border and was thwarted, thank God. Now we've got other caravans coming. How can these people call themselves journalists and honest people and disavow the fact that we have a crisis?
They're not honest people. They're evil. They're intentionally malicious, and they're globalists. So all the information that they're pushing is for a globalist agenda. And I think if you do your own research, you will find that out and understand what their intentions are. And it's not for America, for our U.S. Constitution, or for our laws, or for, a civil society. So I do blame the media, and you're absolutely correct. However, at what point do we blame ourselves for not educating ourselves and looking at a situation, objectively before we do our own research? So, it's on us now, and I think President Trump has done what he can, but we do need to push him to do more. He might go to the DOD, Department of Defense, and get that wall built with the Army Corps of Engineers. We need to do everything that we can, humanly possible, to protect this country.
You brought up a really good point just a minute ago, and I want to touch on it, is that we, the American public, we're as guilty as anybody else for allowing this to happen, whether it's a certain industry, whether it's a certain agricultural industry, whatever. We turn a blind eye and a deaf ear and say, oh, well, we'll look the other way. We have got to stop this problem before it eats us like a cancer, and we've got to stop special treatment.
Absolutely. And, that's what we did in 2009. This will be our 10th year anniversary, Zeb, so we are going to have another national conference, probably in Texas, and bring more family members together. But in the meantime, we're going to be out there talking about this. And, again, it is incumbent upon ourselves to do something about it. My husband and I saw something wrong, and we activated. The learning curve was huge because we weren't necessarily political, but we did see a wrong in the sanctuary city policies that the city of Houston had implemented here. And we did our research and found that it wasn't just Texans who were being killed at the hands of illegal aliens, but it was all over the United States. And the crimes that they get away with and are released is a double standard. Illegal aliens are basically untouchable in the United States unless they commit some heinous crimes, where if we committed the same types of crimes and misdemeanors as citizens, we would be charged and jailed if that was it. And if we abused our children and put them in harm's way and neglected them, guess what? We will be separated from our children. So that shows you the double standard and the avenue that we're on and has been for years of the degradation of our country and our laws, our Constitution.
I wish I had more time. I always respect having you on the air. It's going to be a great interview with great information. But tell me one last answer to this question, Maria. What more can we do? What more can you and I, your husband and others do? I mean, sometimes I feel like we're preaching to an empty church. It just frustrates me.
I understand your frustration, and we feel that as well. But if we stop them, then we absolutely roll over and lose. And this is the greatest country in the world. We're not going to stop. For us, what we're going to continue doing is spreading the message. I ask your listeners to go to our website, theremembranceproject.org, or send me an email, director@theremembranceproject.org. Sign up for our emails. We'll add you to our distribution list. Donate. If you can give $20, one night out of eating out, $20 a month will help keep the lights on and keep going. I'm 100% volunteer, unfortunately, but we can't do this. I have bills too to pay. Can't do this forever, but just gather together, share information, and keep hounding those representatives, even if they're not from your own state. We need to hound them.
Amen. Maria Espinoza, God bless you and what you do. Thank you for taking the time to come on our show.
God bless you too, Zeb, and prayers are always needed. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Maria Espinoza, National Director of the Remembrance Project, and I look forward every time I can get her on the show, I will. Thank you very, very much. Wow. We got to get a weather forecast on here right now, and the weather brought to you by Scarrows Meats. Oh, I enjoy talking about them. Yes, sirree, Bobby. Oh, by the way, Don Scarrow's going to be cooking at Agri-Action this year at the CSI Expo Center on the 31st, February 1st and 2nd. He's going to, listen to what he's going to be cooking up. He's going to be cooking up brats and jerky and sausage. It's going to be phenomenal. Oh, my goodness. Scarrows Meats, the best, 331 North Road, Jerome. Telephone number to call, 324-7657. Or you can go to their website, scarrowsmeats.com. We'll tell you more right after Gina has the weather.
We're finally going to see a little bit of sunshine for the day. Here's a look at your weather, expecting mostly sunny skies. Winds out of the west at about 10 miles an hour. We're looking at a high of 31 tonight, mostly cloudy skies with a low of 24. Winds will be picking up, gusts as high as 20 miles an hour. For tomorrow, we do have a 20% chance of snow showers, mostly cloudy skies. Still breezy, winds out of the west-southwest at about 20 miles an hour, gusts as high as 35 miles an hour. High of 40 by tomorrow night, mostly cloudy skies, still going to be breezy with a low of 30. Then by Thursday, maybe a few more rays of sunshine and a high of 40. That's a look at your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you, Gina. And yes, there is a little bit of sunshine out there, and we'll enjoy it while we can. Brought to you by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Again, that number, 324-7657. Delicious meats like marinated pork ribs and tri-tips and sausages and bratwurst. I love brats. All of this and more at Scarrows Meats. They they are changing the way we eat one delicious bite at a time. Scarro's Meats. I want to urge you to come to our lunch bunch, and that's going to be this Thursday at Denny's Restaurant America's Diner. You know what, folks? We have a good time. We've got a great group of people. I mean, they come from all walks of life and all age brackets, and we just get together and have a good time. Delicious food from Denny's, and of course great service, and we have door prizes, lots of them, gift certificates from our friends at Walmart, Smith's Foods, Hanson Mortuary, Stokes Groceries, Doug Martin, Denny's, all of this and more, and it starts at 11:30 on this Thursday. So we urge you to be in attendance. Zeb's Lunch Bunch at Denny's Restaurant America's Diner, 611 North Overland in Burley on this Thursday. Please be our guest. Come on in and enjoy. I want to also urge you to stop in and see any one of the 7 locations of your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Oh, my goodness, you'll be ready for anything the road throws at you. Snow, ice, muck, yuck, you name it. And they've got all the tread designs and all the sizes for your cars, pickups, SUVs. They want you to drive safely this winter. And don't forget, too, they have the best in brake service with highly trained brake technicians and, of course, front-end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries. Don't forget, you need to have a good battery. They've got them right there at any one of the 7 locations. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, of course, the Twist family and Paul, wonderful people, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. There you have it, the best, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. What have we got on the menu for tomorrow? Woo, a home run derby. Let me tell you, we're going to have Dave Bigo from Indianapolis, Indiana on. Then we're going to go to one of my favorite guests down in Florida. Dan Perkins is going to be on. We're going to have Megan Barth, and if you've heard Megan Barth, she shoots from the hip and knows what she's talking about on anything political. And then my old friend talking about the problems with terrorism in this country and infiltrating into this country, Ryan Morrow. So all of that coming up tomorrow. You do not want to miss a minute of it. And we will be here at 8:06 tomorrow morning, and we'll start the horse loping around the track a little bit until 11 o'clock. And then we say, as always, the way things were are the way things ought to be. And the world needs more cowboys. Until tomorrow morning at 8:06, God bless. Zeb Bell. You make it a great day.